The median home price in the United States hit $436,412 in March 2026. And that number is meaningless for the vast majority of people who actually need to buy a house. Meaningless because the median is not a floor. It is an average that includes markets with no relationship to what a working household can realistically finance. It includes San Jose. It includes San Francisco. It includes markets where the entry point for a structurally habitable home starts above $700,000. The median tells you where the middle is. It tells you nothing about where the opportunity is. This video investigates 8 states where homes are still listed, actively today, based on current market data, at prices the national median has made people assume no longer exist. The reveals are not equal. The first few will seem straightforward. By the end, one of them will make you question why these states aren't the only conversation happening in American real estate right now. State number 1, Mississippi. Median home price, $100,000. Mississippi consistently holds the lowest median home price of any state in the country. On its surface, the explanation seems obvious. It's the poorest state by per capita income. It has the lowest average wages, and it has historically had the weakest job market of any state in the continental United States. That surface explanation is accurate, and it is also incomplete. What Mississippi's low median price actually reflects is a housing market where affordability is baked into the structure, not manufactured through inventory gluts or temporary market corrections. The state has a median home price of $100,000 because homes in Mississippi have never been priced for speculative buyers. They have been priced for people who live and work there. That is a fundamentally different pricing mechanism than what drives markets in Florida or Texas. What $100,000 gets you in Mississippi? A 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom single-family home in communities like Hattiesburg, Meridian, or Tupelo, cities with genuine economic anchors. Tupelo, for example, is home to Toyota's largest North American manufacturing facility. That is not an economy without an employment structure. The reveal. Mississippi's property insurance market has become one of the most stressed in the nation. Homeowners in certain counties face insurance premiums that have doubled or tripled in the last 4 years, driven by hurricane risk modeling revisions that are reshaping the entire Gulf Coast and surrounding states. A home priced at $100,000 in Mississippi may carry an annual insurance cost of $3,000 to $5,000 in the most affected zip codes. A monthly cost addition of $250 to $420 that does not appear in any listing price and can consume the financial advantage the home price creates. What this means for a buyer. Mississippi's low prices are real. The insurance cost structure in specific countries is equally real. Before any purchase, an insurance quote from at least 3 carriers for the specific parcel is not optional. It is the first financial step. State number 2. Arkansas median home price, $120,000. Arkansas sits just above Mississippi on the affordability scale. The state's median of $120,000 reflects a housing market that has absorbed modest growth over the last 3 years, without the speculative distortion that hit higher-profile markets. Northwest Arkansas in particular, the Bentonville-Fayetteville corridor, has been growing steadily under the gravitational pull of Walmart's global headquarters. The Bentonville area has attracted thousands of supplier company offices, technology vendors, and logistics operations that orbit Walmart's procurement ecosystem. This has created a job market in a corner of Arkansas that bears no resemblance to the state's historical economic profile. What $120,000 gets you in Arkansas? A 3-bedroom home with a yard in a smaller city like Fort Smith or Jonesboro. In Northwest Arkansas, the same budget produces something smaller. And the market is bifurcated. The Bentonville corridor has appreciated meaningfully, while the rest of the state has remained in the range that the statewide median reflects. The reveal. Arkansas has one of the highest rates of manufactured homeownership in the country. In many rural Arkansas counties, a significant portion of what appears in listing searches as single-family residential housing is actually manufactured or mobile home construction, which carries different financing requirements, different depreciation curves, and different resale market dynamics than site-built homes. A buyer searching at $80,000 to $120,000 in rural Arkansas must verify the construction type before proceeding. The listing description does not always disclose this clearly, and the implications for conventional financing and long-term value are significant. What this means for a buyer: Arkansas offers genuine affordability in both its rural and growing urban markets. The construction type verification is not a concern reserved for the most suspicious listings. It is a baseline check required in this price range across most rural counties. State number 3, West Virginia. Median home price: $80,000. West Virginia carries the second lowest median home price in the country, behind only Mississippi. The reasons are structural and long-standing: population decline, limited economic diversification, and geographic isolation that has historically limited both employer access and infrastructure investment. These are real factors. They are also not the complete picture. What $80,000 gets you in West Virginia? A 2-story home with land in small cities like Parkersburg, Martinsburg, or Clarksburg. And the word land is not metaphorical. Properties in West Virginia at this price frequently include 1 to 5 acres as a standard feature, not a premium. The cost of equivalent land in Virginia, just across the border, is a multiplier. The reveal: West Virginia's broadband infrastructure deficit is among the worst of any state in the country. Remote work has become a primary driver of migration into rural states with low housing costs. But remote work requires reliable, high-speed internet. In significant portions of West Virginia, broadband speeds that support consistent video conferencing, cloud-based work, or any modern professional digital infrastructure simply do not exist. The state and federal government have committed funding to close this gap, but as of mid-2026, deployment is incomplete, and coverage remains inconsistent. A remote worker purchasing in West Virginia must verify not just internet availability, but actual speed at the specific address, not the county-level coverage map, which overstates actual service quality. What this means for a buyer: West Virginia's pricing is not a secret. The land value at this price point is real. The infrastructure verification at the address level is essential before remote work reliance makes this a viable full-time residence. State number 4, Indiana. Median home price: $120,000. Indiana's median is higher than the previous 3 states, but it is still $180,000 below the national figure. More importantly, Indiana has something the other low-cost states frequently lack: a diversified manufacturing and technology economy that does not depend on a single employer or a single sector. Indianapolis has become a legitimate secondary technology hub. The city hosts the headquarters of major healthcare companies, including Eli Lilly and Anthem. Logistics infrastructure anchored by the Indianapolis International Airport, one of the largest air cargo hubs in North America, supports thousands of permanent positions. The automotive supply chain that runs through central and southern Indiana employs tens of thousands more. What $120,000 gets you in Indiana? A 3-bedroom home in Indianapolis proper, or a significantly larger property in cities like Muncie, Anderson, or Terre Haute. Redfin data shows active listings in Indianapolis neighborhoods at this price point that offer 1,200 to 1,500 square feet with garages and yards. Yard the reveal: Indiana's property tax system operates differently from most states in a way that catches buyers off guard. Indiana assesses property taxes based on assessed value that is recalculated periodically, and in markets experiencing appreciation, the assessed value can increase substantially, and the tax bill follows. A home purchased at $120,000 in a rapidly appreciating Indianapolis neighborhood may be reassessed at $145,000 or $160,000 within 2 years, producing a tax bill significantly higher than what the seller was paying. In Indiana, the homestead exemption partially offsets this for primary residences. But the offset is not total, and the trajectory matters. Buyers must request the current assessed value, not just the listing price, and model what a reassessment at the appreciated value would produce in annual tax cost. What this means for a buyer: Indiana combines genuine economic depth with housing prices that remain accessible. The property tax recalculation dynamic is a specific, manageable concern, but it must be modeled, not ignored. State number 5, Kentucky. Median home price, $100,000. Kentucky sits below the national median by more than $220,000. The state's affordable housing stock is distributed across a range of market types: Louisville's urban market, the Lexington metro, and a large rural landscape that includes both distressed communities and areas with genuine natural amenity value. Lexington's economy is more diverse than its horse country reputation suggests. The University of Kentucky is a major employer. Toyota's Georgetown assembly plant employs thousands in the region. Healthcare and logistics contribute meaningfully to the labor market. What $100,000 gets you in Kentucky? A 2-bedroom home in Lexington's peripheral neighborhoods. A 3-bedroom home in smaller cities like Bowling Green or Owensboro. Or a property with land in rural areas where acreage pricing remains genuinely below any equivalent market in the Southeast. The reveal? Kentucky has one of the highest rates of coal industry environmental liability in the country. Certain counties in eastern Kentucky carry legacy contamination, water quality issues, land subsidence risk, and air quality factors from decades of coal mining activity. These conditions are not uniformly distributed across the state, but in the counties where they exist, they are material. There's a buyer purchasing in eastern Kentucky specifically, where prices are lowest and properties most abundant at the bottom of the range, must verify both water source quality and whether the specific parcel sits in proximity to any identified surface mining or subsurface mining operations. County environmental records, available through Kentucky's Energy and Environment Cabinet, are publicly accessible. What this means for a buyer: Kentucky's pricing is real, and the economic anchors in its larger cities are genuine. The environmental verification is specific to eastern counties, but it is non-negotiable in those areas. State number 6, Iowa. Median home price, $130,000. Iowa has a housing market that functions almost exactly as a housing market is theoretically supposed to function. Supply and demand are relatively balanced. Prices are tied to income levels. Speculation has not distorted the relationship between what homes cost and what local wages support. This is increasingly unusual in American real estate. Des Moines has become one of the most economically stable secondary cities in the Midwest. Insurance and financial services anchor the white-collar economy. Principal Financial Group, Nationwide, and several regional carriers are headquartered here. The city's cost of living is consistently ranked among the lowest in the country for a market with full urban amenities. What $130,000 gets you in Iowa? A 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom home in Des Moines' suburban neighborhoods, or a notably larger property in cities like Cedar Rapids, Davenport, or Ames. Ames specifically, as the home of Iowa State University, carries rental market stability from student and faculty housing demand that supports property values through enrollment cycles. The reveal: Iowa sits in a climate zone that combines Midwest heating requirements with the tornado corridor designation. Homeowners' insurance in Iowa has increased materially over the last 3 years, driven by severe weather event frequency, specifically derecho storms, which are straight-line wind events that caused billions in insured losses across the state in 2020 and have elevated actuarial risk ratings for the entire region. A buyer must obtain insurance quotes before closing on any Iowa property. In affected zip codes, the premium increase since 2020 ranges from 40% to 80%, and several national carriers have reduced their underwriting exposure in the state. Unavailability and cost are both variable in ways that did not exist 4 years ago. What this means for a buyer: Iowa's housing market is one of the most rationally priced in the country. The insurance market volatility is a real and recent development that requires a dedicated quoting process before any purchase closes. State number 7, Kansas. Median home price, $110,000. Kansas is often overlooked in housing conversations, which is precisely why its numbers are interesting. The state's median sits $110,000 below the national figure. Wichita, its largest city, has a manufacturing economy anchored by aviation. Boeing, Spirit Aerosystems, and Cessna all maintain significant operations there. These are skilled manufacturing positions that pay above median wages and do not require a degree in technology to access. What $110,000 gets you in Kansas? A three-bedroom home in Wichita's established residential neighborhoods, or a property with substantial land in smaller cities like Salina, Emporia, or Hutchinson? At the low end of the price range in rural Kansas, properties begin to include agricultural zoning designations that carry both opportunity and regulatory complexity. The reveal: Kansas sits directly in Tornado Alley. This is not new information. What has changed is the insurance industry's response to it. Multiple national carriers have exited the Kansas homeowners insurance market in the last 2 years, or dramatically restricted new policy issuance. The carriers that remain have increased premiums significantly, in some Wichita zip codes by 50% to 90% since 2021. This has produced a situation where a home priced at $110,000 carries an annual insurance premium of $2,500 to $4,500, depending on construction type, age, and specific location. The purchase price in Kansas is real. The insurance cost structure that accompanies it is equally real, and it has changed fundamentally since 2021. What this means for a buyer: the insurance market in Kansas requires the same dedicated research process as Iowa. Quotes must be obtained before any offer is submitted. The availability of coverage at a given address, not just the cost, must be confirmed, as carrier withdrawal in specific zip codes has left some properties effectively uninsurable through standard market channels. State number 8. Ohio median home price: $130,000. Ohio is the most unexpected entry on this list. Not because its prices are the lowest, they are not, but because Ohio is a state with a genuinely diversified large-scale economy, multiple major metro areas, and a housing market where the national median is completely disconnected from what is actually available. Columbus, Cleveland, Cincinnati, Dayton, 4 genuinely functional mid-sized cities with distinct economic anchors. Columbus alone, the state capital and home to Ohio State University, has added more jobs than any other Midwest metro over the last 5 years. The city's technology sector, driven by Intel's semiconductor manufacturing investment and a cluster of fintech companies, is expanding in ways that have not yet been fully priced into the housing market. What $130,000 gets you in Ohio? Active listings at this price point in Columbus proper, so not in its outer ring suburbs. Redfin and Realtor.com data show 3-bedroom homes in Columbus neighborhoods within 15 minutes of downtown at $120,000 to $145,000, based on listings at the time of this research. In Cincinnati and Dayton, the same budget produces larger properties. The reveal: this one is different from the others. Ohio has no catch of the kind that explains the others. No catastrophic insurance market disruption. No environmental liability concentration. No infrastructure deficit. No manufactured home disclosure issue. Ohio's housing market is priced the way it is because Ohio is Ohio. A large, functional, unfashionable Midwest state that never became the destination of speculative capital, never had its prices inflated beyond what local wages support, and has never required a correction that cities like Austin and Phoenix are currently processing. Ohio's prices are low because its housing market is working correctly. What this means for a buyer: Ohio is the state on this list that requires the least amount of specialized due diligence. The same research process that applies to any home purchase applies here. There is no hidden variable that explains the price. The price is the price because the market is rational, the economy is real, and nobody has decided Ohio is interesting yet. 8 states, 8 different price structures, 8 different reasons why the national median of $436,412 tells you almost nothing about what is actually available to buyers who are willing to look where the cameras aren't. The catches on this list: insurance markets, construction type disclosure, soccer broadband infrastructure, environmental records, property tax recalculation, are not reasons to avoid these markets. They are the research. Every market in America has its version of these variables. The difference is that in markets priced at $400,000 and above, these variables are obscured by the assumption that high prices signal high quality. They frequently do not. The pattern across all 8 states is consistent. Housing that is priced for people who live and work in that place, rather than for people who are speculating on what someone else will pay for it later. That is, historically, the most durable form of housing value. If the channel is worth following, it's right there. We research these markets the same way every time. The national median tells you where the middle is. What are you going to do with that?